Welcome to SafeCon. So yeah, we were debating if it's actually a smart idea to do a conference on a Sunday in Berlin. I'm glad you all made it, and props to the one that were still going to Berghain last night. You're the real MVPs. But why Berlin? Why are we meeting here today? So Berlin actually has a long history and very deep roots in the Ethereum ecosystem. It's a place where the first ever DEF CON 0 happened. It's also where the Ethereum Genesis block was mined, and where a lot of the Ethereum core developers are based out of. But it's also where a big part of the wider Ethereum ecosystem, including the Safe core contributors, are based. Actually, many people working on the Safe project are working out of the full node co-working space, which is just really a stone throw away, 500 meters from here. So also, you will see a lot of people here today that are actively working on the Safe project. Make sure to meet them, to ask them any question you had so far. That's your opportunity to meet all those people behind this project. Also, Berlin, obviously being a tech hub in Europe, and specifically nowadays where the regulatory environment around the world is very much moving, and the US not being particularly upfront, direct, open towards our industry. I think the EU and specifically Berlin has a huge opportunity to become a big Web3 hub with regulatory clarity, with regulators that are actually willing to talk to builders like us. So I'm also glad to be here in Europe, and the Safe project generally to be very much rooted in Europe with hubs in Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, and here in Berlin. And obviously, the main reason we want to do SafeCon here is that the after parties are just the best. So yeah. SafeCon is part of a bigger event series, which is Berlin Blockchain Week. So there's going to be Web3 related events all over the city this entire week. And obviously DAppCon, the main developer conference of the week, happening tomorrow and the days after. So I'm sure we see each other a few times in Berlin, in next days. But let's focus on SafeCon. We're expecting 600 people throughout the day. And I'm sure in the future when we look back, SafeCon 0 was probably the smallest SafeCon we ever had. But still happy that we were able to get together so many people excited about Safe, in general, smart accounts, and what combines us actually is, I think we all believe in the value of self-custody, of owning your data, your identity, your assets. But we probably all agree that this is not going to be the thing that brings us there. Seed phrases were valuable to onboard a lot of people, a first wave of users to Web3, and show them the opportunities of self-custody and ownership of digital assets. But it's not going to be enough to onboard the rest of the world. For this, we need to migrate to smart accounts. So these are accounts, Web3 accounts that are programmable, that have extensible logic, that are just more powerful, provide a better UX than these private key accounts that you usually have with this seed phrase. It's going to enable user experiences like social login, like more streamlined transaction flows where you bundle a lot of transactions into one interaction or even an intent. You have gas abstraction, you have recovery schemes, you have more sophisticated access control policies. All these things are going to be enabled through smart accounts. So the idea here for us is really that eventually every interaction with Web3 will originate from a smart account. That's the vision that should combine us here. And it's also a vision that's not that niche. Even Vitalik Buterin himself is arguing that the migration, the transition from private key accounts to smart accounts is one of the 3 key transitions that we need to go through in order for Web3 or the Ethereum ecosystem to succeed. And we really need all 3 of these transitions. And I think the crowd that's here today is specifically working on accelerating this one transition, which is the move to smart accounts. Yeah, I'm also glad to have many people here that are really the visionaries in this space, the thought leaders, the people that push the ecosystem forward. So we will hear from a lot of the people in the room today on what they've been building around smart accounts or Safe specifically, what challenges they've been facing, and have just constructive discussions around this topic. We only have one stage. We don't have side stages, just pure gold all here. All the highlights, all the announcements will be here. But we have a second room, which is over there to the left, which is the workshop room, where there's going to be more deep dives into technical topics or just topics that need more interactions with the crowd. So there's some workshops over there. And then we were lucky to have the weather gods on our side today, so we can use all the beautiful open space outside for just meeting each other, to have more informal discussions and meetings. And there's also going to be a developer lounge out there. So that's a place where a bunch of the developers, core developers of the Safe project will be sitting and will be answering questions, will be available for you to interact with. There's also a UX lounge just over here, where we have designers and UX researchers that are gathering there. And just, if you have some things around design, UX, you always want to ask the Safe team, or some ideas you have, come over there. And the space outside will also be where we will host an open bar in the evening. So from, I think it's 6 p.m., we will open the taps, and hopefully a few of you will stick around. But yeah, the slot here is actually called the future of Safe. So that was all just logistics and intro. And to quote this boomer up there, if you want to know the future, you need to look into the past. So before we go into the future, let's quickly look back where we're coming from. So Safe is a spin-off from Gnosis, as you might know. Gnosis is originally set up to build prediction markets on Ethereum. I mean, we know how that went. Gnosis ended up doing a lot of things besides prediction markets. And the reason really being that Gnosis was so early that they had to build up a lot of the infrastructure and the tooling that was needed to bring prediction markets to life themselves. So they started a few tools, few projects, and started having teams around that. And these tools were then used by others as well. And the teams just became bigger and bigger. And at some point, some of these projects were just too big to be just a thing to do on the side, so they were spun out. A few examples here are Kabatki, CowSwap, or Safe, and like this other projects Gnosis has kickstarted, like Open Ethereum or Zodiac or the DXDAO, and I could go on. And that's really something. I want to just give props also to Martin and Stefan, the founders of Gnosis, that when you start a startup, usually you want to have focus, you want to really like double down on this one thing, and they actually didn't do that. They did quite the opposite. They started 10 different projects in parallel, even though it didn't seem scalable at that time. But it was exactly what our space needed, because like a lot of these things were just a problem for Gnosis itself, but they turned out bigger problems for the wider ecosystem. And even though prediction markets didn't work, Gnosis was so well diversified that a lot of these other things they were doing were actually successful. So let's go to Safe specifically. Safe was actually was started as a multi-sig wallet solution. So Gnosis did their ICO, so they did a crowd sale of the token, and they, in preparation of that, needed something to secure the proceedings of that ICO, like a secure self-custody solution, because also the landscape of like custodians and wallets was not as mature back then, so they just built something themselves. a solution that allowed the team to have multiple private keys, control a single account with to be assumed to be a lot of assets. And so that was done. The ICO was conducted. The solution was adopted themselves, and Gnosis decided to open source this multi-sig solution. And the wide ecosystem just suddenly started adopting it. There were a lot of ICOs back then. A lot of teams had the same need. And suddenly this open source project got feature requests, a lot of traction. We had to maintain it. We had to add new features. And it became its own separate thing within Safe. And just here, like that's a screenshot from the old multisig. Obviously, terrible UX, but still people used it. At some point, more than $1 billion worth of assets were secured through this thing. And that just was the trigger then to think about what's next for this project. And the idea is that like smart accounts can be valuable for teams, for having multi-signature solutions, but they can also be valuable for a lot of different user groups. So what would like a general purpose smart account look like that can then also bring other user groups these benefits? So the smart contracts were completely rewritten, leveraging like a proxy singleton implementation and just being more gas efficient, more flexible overall. And we started working on a new set of user interfaces that then also were more user-friendly, a little bit less targeted towards developers, just more inclusive for a wider range of users. And also because the smart contracts, they were built intentionally flexible, so they can be extended. You can exchange to a new singleton implementation. That we saw also a lot of other benefits besides just multisig being valuable there. So there's things like spending policies where you can give certain beneficiaries access to your account at a certain threshold. There's roles implementation from the Zodiac team that allows you to give different permissions to different people. There's gas abstraction that's enabled through these new contracts. There's just a lot of things that could be done. And we always knew this is not something that we as a team can build all ourselves. So we started thinking more about on this general purpose smart account, like there needs to be an ecosystem built that is targeting different user groups that are coming into Web3, that have a whole range of different requirements and that want to use Web3 in different ways and also therefore need different types of smart accounts. So you also saw it in the opening video that this ecosystem has grown quite a bit. So more than $50 billion worth of assets now being secured through Safe, over 4 million accounts being created. And that's to a large part also because there was this ecosystem that really took this underlying primitive and shipped it to different user groups and just optimized it in different ways. So what's next? We think that we're now entering like the third evolution of the project. Potentially the final evolution we will see. But we've seen a lot of developments in the smart account ecosystem overall in the last months. There's obviously the standards like ERC 457, which is bringing paymasters and bundlers and a new way to execute transactions and to abstract away the transaction execution and do things like sponsored transactions and all of that. There's other standards like ERC 6900, which is more showing how modular smart accounts can look like. But there's also like relayers popping up. There's different new smart account implementations. There's talks about usage of diamond proxies versus simple proxies. And there's a lot of discussions and a lot of development. But there's also a few risks and challenges that have been popping up in the last months, primarily around like vendor lock-in. Suddenly you have like a lot of different smart wallets, and if they create all various different smart accounts under the hood, it can be that we lose a very important property of our ecosystem, which is portable accounts. So you want to spin up an account on MetaMask, you want to use it in Ledger, you want to use it in Trust Wallet, and you don't want to be locked into this one user interface, which is what traditional finance looks like when you can just use the services provided by your bank and you cannot take the assets and interact with other things. But there's also fragmentation, where we see that tooling has to suddenly manage different smart account implementations and various different standards and like bundlers, and like there's a lot of, with the ecosystem growing, obviously there's often fragmentation coming, and that can just hinder also long-term the adoption, because we don't want that tooling and wallets, etc., have to focus or decide what they should focus on, but rather it should be more standardized. And there's security risks, like what many might have forgotten, that a reason why smart accounts are still slow in adoption is because people are still still have in mind what happened to parity multisig a few years ago, and like there really just needs to be one major smart account being hacked or a smart wallet being compromised, and the trust will be lost immediately. So we need to make sure that we approach the transition very mindfully and with security first, so that we're not getting set back by a major hack. And yeah, we recently published this white paper, Safe Core Protocol, which gives a little bit a glimpse of how we see these things being solved and addressed. Safe Core Protocol aims to be like an interoperability protocol that integrates a lot of these standards that I've mentioned before, like ERC 4337, 6900, and others, but also addresses some of the challenges like vendor lock-in by being vendor agnostic. It introduces a thing called registries that bring security guarantees, and like a lot of these things are addressed there. If you haven't done so, I highly recommend reading the white paper. It's just 7 pages. It's not too technical, so we want to make it as accessible as possible. But we think this is also going to be a major step forward to bring smart accounts to an even wider range of audiences. Like the original multisig, it was very much tailored to like teams that are managing big treasuries. The second phase with the general purpose account was then more like high net worth individuals, still teams, and starting to become more suitable for retail usage. And the next phase we think is going to be even more accessible to a wider range of audiences, and hopefully even for non-financial use cases. And we will hear more about this today. I'm not going to dig into all the details of the Safe Core Protocol. There's going to be a designated workshop a little bit later on by Germán Martínez over there in the workshop room. So highly recommend checking that out as well. But introducing some things, or just some things I'm personally excited about in the wider Safe ecosystem that I just want to share here. There's going to be the entire day of like announcements and opportunities to go more in depth into these, but just want to quickly give some heads up. One thing is Hopper working on safe staking, so bringing more, like leveraging smart accounts to make staking more secure, and that there will be a talk on that. Obviously, Gnosis Pay is quite exciting. So a decentralized payment network built on the Gnosis chain that provides the opportunity to have self-custodial cards that you can go and pay in the shop, and it's actually only at that point where you actually pay in the shop the money leaves self-custody, and that's made possible through Safe. Nest Wallet I'm also excited about, so a browser extension that sort of like is like MetaMask, but 100% focused on smart accounts using Safe. They also have a mobile app, but that's just something that's still missing. A lot of people still use browser extensions to interact with apps for whatever reason, but I'm excited that they also cover that field. Also, non-financial use cases coming to Safe. So a lot of our industry still relies, unfortunately, on like financial aspects, speculation, and that's good. That brings in adoption, but we also need to push forward more non-financial use cases, like how do we like own data using Web3 technologies? How do we coordinate and collaborate together? So Filewars will talk on this today. one thing I'm also excited about, because I'm Swiss myself, but there's a Swiss bank, which I cannot mention right now, but like they're actually looking into providing a recovery service for Safe. So like a Swiss licensed bank that, yeah, it can be a recovery in your safe if you wish to do so. Like it should still be that the default is self-custody, but if you like want to have this like fallback of like a trusted entity provide recovery service, this should be also something that's possible in our ecosystem. And then Qubit working on like a Web3 wallet specifically for gaming, using smart accounts, where obviously things like session keys are quite important. That like when you play a game, you don't want to sign transactions every 2 minutes. You want to have more streamlined user experience. That's possible through Safe. CoinShift apps, so they have started having an app store inside their interface to expand the functionality of CoinShift. Excited about. Then we have the grants program coming up, and we had 120 applications there. So a lot of work for our for our grants council to select the ones we want to give a grant to. But there's probably going to be quite some exciting projects coming out of that. And the Safe Accelerator. So this is going to be the first ever accelerator program specifically for like teams building on smart accounts, and that's in collaboration with Longhash. And we will have like up to 30 teams that are participating in this accelerator. Applications are still open, so if you're building something in the ecosystem and you're like even if you just have like an idea and you want to pursue it, make sure to apply there. There's like a $200,000 like starting budget that will be part of that as an investment, and a lot of support that is given throughout a few months. And at the end of the accelerated program, there's going to be a demo day where you have the opportunity to pitch to investors to continue beyond that program. So that's it from my side. Again, I'm super excited to have all of you here. I'm really looking forward to having a lot of interesting discussions today. And yeah, just giving the heads up for our next slot, which is going to be Sandeep from Polygon, who unfortunately is not going to be here in person, but we were able to set up some streaming so we can share a little bit more how we're going to scale smart accounts together. So yeah, thank you very, very much to be here. And yeah.